When the Terrans first stumbled into galactic society, nobody quite knew what to make of them. The Galactic Confederation had protocols for everything: first contact with primitive civilizations, integration of new member species, even dealing with aggressive expansionist empires. What they didn't have was a manual for handling a species that seemed utterly indifferent to everything that should have terrified them. I was serving as a junior diplomat on the Integration Council when the Terrans were discovered. Our long-range scouts had detected unusual electromagnetic signatures from a previously uncharted system in the Outer Rim. What they found was a civilization that had somehow achieved interstellar travel, despite originating from a world with crushing gravitational forces that should have made spaceflight nearly impossible. The discovery sent shockwaves through the Confederation. Terran gravity was nearly 3 times the galactic standard, meaning these beings had evolved under conditions that would cripple most known species. Yet here they were, launching primitive but functional spacecraft with the casual determination of someone taking an afternoon stroll. Our xenobiologists were fascinated. Most high-gravity species that achieved sapience were small, communal creatures that relied on collective intelligence. The Terrans were different. They were compact by galactic standards, roughly half the height of most civilized species, but built like living siege engines. Their muscle density was extraordinary, their bone structure impossibly robust, and their reflexes lightning quick. The first diplomatic contact was memorable for all the wrong reasons. Ambassador Veltara, our most experienced first contact specialist, approached the Terran delegation with the standard greeting protocols. The human representative, a woman named Sarah Chen, listened politely to our elaborate formal introduction, complete with ceremonial gifts and ancestral blessings. Her response was a simple handshake that nearly broke the ambassador's manipulator appendage. The Terrans were assigned a development zone in the galactic periphery, standard procedure for emerging civilizations. Most new species spent decades carefully expanding, seeking guidance from established powers, and gradually adapting to galactic norms. The Terrans took one look at their allocated space and immediately began industrializing every available asteroid and moon, with a fervor that bordered on obsessive. Within 5 standard years, they had constructed more infrastructure than most species managed in a century. Their mining operations were brutally efficient, their manufacturing processes elegantly simple, and their expansion rate exponentially aggressive. They seemed to approach every challenge with the same methodology: analyze the problem, engineer the most direct solution possible, and implement it with overwhelming force. This caught the attention of the hegemony. The Draconic Hegemony was the Confederation's unofficial rival, a militaristic empire that had spent millennia conquering and subjugating weaker civilizations. They weren't technically at war with the Confederation, but tensions had been escalating for centuries. The emergence of a potentially powerful new species in Confederation space was seen as either an opportunity or a threat. Hegemon Korthax, the Draconic Supreme Commander, decided it was the latter. The ultimatum came during a routine Confederation assembly. A Draconic battle fleet had positioned itself at the edge of Terran space, demanding immediate surrender and incorporation into the hegemony. The dragons gave the humans 1 standard month to submit or face complete annihilation. The Confederation was paralyzed. Military intervention would mean total war with the hegemony, a conflict that could devastate both civilizations. Economic sanctions were meaningless against a military dictatorship. Diplomatic pressure had failed countless times before. We expected the Terrans to request immediate evacuation assistance, or perhaps negotiate for refugee status within Confederation space. Instead, they sent a single-line response to Hegemon Korthax: "Request denied! Come and take it!" The collective response from the galactic community was bewilderment. These were the same humans who had casually shrugged off trade disputes, territorial violations, and even the theft of their outer colonies by pirates. Now they were challenging the most feared military power in known space over what amounted to bureaucratic paperwork. The war began exactly 1 month later. The Draconic Hegemony struck with overwhelming force, deploying battle fleets that had crushed dozens of civilizations. Their plasma cannons could crack planets, their boarding parties were legendary for their savagery, and their tactical doctrine had been refined through centuries of conquest. The Terrans met them with converted cargo haulers and mining equipment. What followed defied every principle of military science. The humans didn't fight like any known species. They didn't attempt to match draconic technology or challenge their superior numbers. Instead, they fought like their homeworld had taught them, with grinding, relentless, utterly pragmatic brutality. Draconic ships found themselves boarded by Terrans who moved through hull breaches like they were walking through morning fog. Human assault teams fought in conditions that would kill most species: vacuum, radiation, temperature extremes that should have been instantly lethal. They turned mining charges into ship killers, and construction mechs into walking weapons platforms. The dragons adapted quickly, as they always did. They began destroying captured vessels rather than risk boarding actions, implemented new hull designs to prevent Terran infiltration, and deployed increasingly exotic weapons to counter human tactics. The humans adapted faster. Within 6 months, Terran engineers had reverse-engineered draconic technology and improved it. Their shipyards, originally designed for industrial construction, began producing warships that incorporated the best of both civilizations' capabilities. Human vessels were crude by galactic standards, but possessed a quality that draconic ships lacked. They kept fighting long after they should have been destroyed. The turning point came when the hegemony deployed their doomsday weapon against the primary human colony world. The gravitational disruptor was supposed to tear the planet apart, demonstrating draconic superiority and breaking human morale. Instead, it revealed something that changed everything. The planet's population had been evacuated 6 months earlier. Every single human civilian had been relocated to hidden installations throughout their territory, while automated systems maintained the illusion of normal activity. The dragons had just wasted their most powerful weapon on an empty world full of decoy transmissions and programmed responses. The human retaliation was swift and surgical. Every major draconic military installation suddenly found itself dealing with catastrophic system failures, infrastructure collapses, and supply line disruptions that couldn't be attributed to external attack. It took weeks for Hegemony intelligence to realize the truth. Human infiltration teams had spent months positioning themselves throughout draconic space, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The war ended not with a great battle, but with a simple choice. Cunnaman Corfax found himself facing complete logistical collapse, and the prospect of fighting an enemy who seemed utterly immune to conventional intimidation. The humans offered terms: complete enemy withdrawal from Confederation space, and a non-aggression pact that would last for 1,000 standard years. The alternative was watching his empire starve, as every supply ship and communication relay suffered mysterious and untraceable accidents. He accepted. The aftermath transformed the galactic balance of power overnight. The humans had accomplished something that the Confederation's combined military might had failed to achieve in centuries. They had forced the Draconic Hegemony to negotiate from a position of weakness. More importantly, they had done it with the same casual indifference they brought to everything else. When asked about their victory, human military commander Admiral Rodriguez simply stated that the dragons had presented them with an engineering problem that required an engineering solution. The fact that this solution involved infiltrating and systematically undermining the most feared empire in the galaxy was treated as a minor technical detail. Years later, I served as liaison to the human territories and had the opportunity to observe their society more closely. What I found was a species that approached every challenge, whether military, economic, or social, with the same fundamental assumption: problems existed to be solved, and any solution that worked was acceptable regardless of how unconventional it might seem to others. They had transformed their development zone into the most productive region in Confederation space. Their technology was spreading throughout galactic civilization, not through conquest or coercion, but because human engineering solutions were invariably more efficient than traditional alternatives. They had even established peaceful trade relationships with reformed elements of the Draconic Hegemony. Through it all, they maintained that same maddening equanimity that had characterized their species from first contact. Galactic politics, military threats, economic upheavals, all were treated as routine problems, requiring routine solutions. Perhaps that's what made them so formidable. Most species feared consequences, worried about escalation, or hesitated when facing overwhelming odds. The humans simply assessed each situation with cool pragmatism and implemented whatever solution seemed most effective. They had turned indifference into a strategic advantage. Today, the Terran Republic stands as one of the most influential powers in known space. Their military doctrine is studied at academies throughout the galaxy. Their technology drives interstellar commerce, and their diplomatic approach has fundamentally altered how conflicts are resolved. And they still react to praise, criticism, and threats with the same calm pragmatism they've shown since first contact. Some species achieve greatness through passion, others through wisdom or strength. The humans achieved it by simply refusing to be impressed by anything the universe threw at them. It was, as they might say, just another day at the office.